Hello guys, welcome to a new video. Today I will be showing you the 3 best decks to use in the Raging Giant Challenge. So let's just jump right into it. In the first game we're going to be using this deck that has the Minion Horde, a lot of Swarm with the Skarmy, the Bats. It also has the main P.E.K.K.A, which I think is going to be the best card to use in this whole challenge to counter the Raged Giant. But let's just talk about the decks first. This first one is going to be a mix of a lot of cards, very swarmy, very sort of like arrow bait kind of deck that also has the famous Sparky in it. The last one is the cheesy deck, which is basically a Raging Giant cycle. Since it's the most OP card in this challenge, it makes sense to make a cycle deck so you can use it as much as you can. And then the second one is one I made myself, which has is very defensive and very good with cards such as the Ice Wizard, the Inferno Drake, and cards like that will just stop this giant and allow you to control the game in this crazy challenge. But in this first game, this challenge, what you must do if you want to secure the 12 wins or if you want to get as far as you can is, first of all, before doing any crazy giant pushes, because they are expensive pushes, you should identify the deck that your opponent is playing. It is very likely that they will be playing a very weird deck because everyone will be running weird decks over here. But you need to identify, first of all, what cards they will be using to defend your giant, what cards they can use to support or to support their giant pushes in order for you to counter, and what kind of strategy you need to develop or to follow in order to not only defend his pushes, but also break through with your pushes. For example, as I did right here with zapping the badly placed Inferno Tower. In these games, you're going to see crazy decks from both sides, but I think the second deck that I'm going to show you is the one that has the most potential. This is because it is a very defensive deck. It allows you to control the whole game, and it essentially is a way to slow down the giant, be like, okay, let's normalize this game a little bit more, take control of the game, and then just wait for your opponent to make a mistake so you can build a huge counter push behind it. Although the third deck is actually a cheesy deck, if you think that this tournament is going to be too easy or something like that, you have that deck as a way of having more fun with it, since you'll be able to play the Raged Giant a lot more than with all the other different decks. You're going to see that in all the games I play, I actually phase the mini P.E.K.K.A because I think the majority of people are going to be using that card, since it's one of the main counters that the giant will phase. But yeah, I think all these 3 decks should work fine. And as I say in every video, last video I got some comments about it. I'm not saying that if you jump straight into the arena and you play these decks without learning them, they're going to work. You should practice with them in practice matches, just even playing around, seeing the interactions between the cards, and seeing which deck feels right for you. So don't just jump straight into the challenge and use whichever deck because I told you so. Try and see which one flows better with your strategy or with your game style, and which one you have more experience with. So now into game number 2. This is the super defensive deck I'm telling you about. We have the Firecracker for splash damage. We have a Delve Wizard. The first one is the Ice Wizard to slow down their whole pushes, and the second one is the Electro Wizard in case they have something for our giants, such as the Inferno Dragon, the Inferno Tower, or something like that. The Electro Wizard is actually going to give you a lot of value. You have some skeletons to, first of all, cycle a lot faster, and second of all, since I've been telling you that the mini P.E.K.K.A is one of the cards that will be used the most, then those skeletons are a great answer to a mini P.E.K.K.A once it has already killed your giant and is running straight to you as a form of a counter push. But you can see that this giant goes crazy anytime it reaches the tower. So our job in these games is just seeing where our opponent has overextended and we can punish them. For example, here you can see the Inferno Dragon works extremely well paired with the Electro Wizard, as the Electro Wizard slows down the giant and the Inferno Dragon melts it, so it's only able to get 1 or 2 hits. And that was an insane defense since he was doing a counter attack and we had less elixir than him. So that was a great defense. And you can see here the eternal battle of the Inferno Dragon versus the Zappies. So again, one important thing in this deck, you want to keep the mini P.E.K.K.A in your hand as secretly as possible, because your main way to defend their giant is going to be with your Inferno Dragon. So if they do not know that you have a second counter to it with the mini P.E.K.K.A, they're going to try and bait out your Inferno Dragon and then attempt a push when your Inferno Dragon is not there, thinking that they will be able to get to the tower and stuff like that, but then you can show your mini P.E.K.K.A, you know, something like that. But here I don't, I end the secret because a scary push was coming, and I decided to just use it against the P.E.K.K.A before anything went south. But yeah, here you can see that the double wizard on defense works perfectly, and once you have done quite enough damage to their attack, you can then just throw a giant, and a huge counter push is going to form. However, the Zappies are a way better card than I thought in this challenge. But yeah, one thing you have to be careful. Well, one thing that is also pretty good about this deck is that I think Sparky is going to be very popular in this deck, in this challenge, since it's one of the main cards that are countered with the giant. So I think that having the Electro Wizard in this deck actually helps a ton by just being able to completely cancel the Sparky. Also, as you can see that this deck has, also remember to use the giant as a defensive card. I almost didn't realize what I was doing in that play. It's a card that has a lot of health, walks really quickly, and is just extremely tanky. So you can use it in order to get out of sticky situations, as you saw there, for example, and it's going to give you great value for the 5 elixir that it actually costs. It has so much HP. If you have a card that is about to die, it's defending, and you're low on elixir, just by using a giant, you can get out of situations that are very tough to get out. And yeah, it's going to be a great card to actually have in your deck. So yeah, as I told you, this is going to be the deck I'm going to use. I think if you practice with it and you feel comfortable with it, I think it's a very safe deck to use. You take control of the game. As you can see, where we took down his tower and he didn't do very significant damage to our towers. So yeah, but this is going to be the challenge deck. This is going to be the fast cycle giant deck. As you can see, we're playing against a guy that is actually really good. He has very good tournament or ladder finishes. So we're going to see how good this deck pairs up against some of these pro players. As you can see, we already made our first mistake. Since we went in with a very big push, he was able to defend it very cheaply, and then he's punishing us with a counter push that is actually going to take our tower, and I'm surprised that it didn't take anything else. But yeah, now the following play is the one that you saw in the intro. We're going to drop a giant and then followed by the 2 spirits, because we believe that the good thing about this deck is that I think a lot of decks are going to be using, of course, the mini P.E.K.K.A, but also swarms such as bats and skeletons, which is what you saw over here. And since I had that on my mind, I decided to just go with a naked giant followed by 2 spirits, because of the possible counters that he could have to my giant when he didn't have the mini P.E.K.K.A in hand would be either of those cards. He actually dropped both, which gave us insane value, and it actually got us back in the game. The Musketeer as well in his deck is a pretty good card you can use. I think he's actually playing Graveyard, which I think is a good deck to play in this challenge, and I think it's going to work out just fine for you guys if you decide to use it. However, I think that in this deck, when the giant is so OP, you should actually use the giant and try to make the whole push of your deck about your giant, not about your giant as a tank, but as about using your giant as an electro giant, for example. Because if you use Graveyard, your giant then becomes a tank instead of the main win condition. And I think that in this deck, in this challenge, you should use and focus your decks on having the giant as the main win condition. For example, this one has as the main strategy of the deck being able to cycle as many giants as possible and as quick as possible, since they do so much damage. It's just, they're unstoppable. So it's the best way of using or creating a deck in this kind of tournament. As you can see, he's going to be using Graveyard pretty often while tanking with his giant, but our King Tower has not been affected that much by his Graveyard. In fact, the main damage that he's doing comes from his giant, as you can see by our Queen Princess Tower having 290 health. And over here you can see the beauty of the cycling, because we're going to actually drop 2 P.E.K.K.As and that giant is not going to be able to touch either of our towers. And then we're just going to follow through with a giant and some Electro Spirit, Fire Spirit, and a log just to get rid of those skeletons and let our giant get to the tower and finish the game in style. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you liked the video, and thank you for watching.